what happened last night was historic. As I mentioned, 17 Republicans joined the Democrats in passing a bipartisan infrastructure bill. It's rare that we come together on something that significant with that much bipartisanship. We're now in the midst of the debate on that bill, the cloture vote, and our time is running, and I hope soon that we can get to the merits of the bill and enact it as quickly as possible. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to rebuild our nation's roads, railways, and bridges, to make high-speed internet and clean water a reality for every home in America, and to create millions of good-paying, family-supporting, in many cases union jobs across the country. President Biden said he wanted to build back better when it came to America. He sure showed it last night. We never could have reached that point without his leadership. The White House has been a partner in this bipartisan effort from the start. And 67 members of the Senate coalesced around this approach. This economy needs to work fairly for everyone, protect our kids and grandkids from climate catastrophe, and a major part of this bill addresses it. This is a moment the American people have been waiting for. It couldn't come sooner. Right now, many of our roads and bridges are in terrible disrepair, and our infrastructure is crumbling before our eyes. Every week brings word of a new climate-related crisis, devastating drought and wildfires in the West, melting power lines in Oregon, rolling blackouts in Texas. And 2 weeks ago, there was a bridge collapsing in my state of Illinois. Take a look at this picture. Let me describe what you're seeing here. This was a scene in the small town, rural town in Illinois of Seneca, when a bridge on the river road gave way to extreme flooding. As you can see, maybe you can see down here, the pavement comes to an end and you can see all the way through. When that bridge came apart, typically, in good fashion, a group of Illinoisans stepped up as good Samaritans and pulled the driver out of this vehicle, straddling this break in the highway. A local police officer said the driver was, quote, really lucky that he didn't end up in the creek under the bridge. I'm grateful that nobody was harmed that evening. I thank the first responders as well for coming to the rescue. But now, 2 weeks later, that bridge is still broken. The taxpayers in my home state are stuck paying the tab. Repairs are going to cost over $1 million. This is just one example of a failure to invest in our nation's roads and bridges that's costing us. Every 4 years, American Society of Civil Engineers gives a report card on our roads and bridges and their safety. For decades now, it's been filled with all the kinds of grades that you wouldn't want your kids to bring home from school. The overall grade this year was C minus in the United States of America. For the wealthiest nation and the largest economy on earth. Imagine. If we continue to neglect the arteries of our economy, the situation will get worse. The Society of Civil Engineers estimates that continued underinvestment in our nation's infrastructure could cost $10 trillion of loss in GDP over the next 2 decades. Major drain on city and state budgets, but more importantly, a threat to the families and their safety when they travel. This truck driver had no idea that he would take his truck out on this road and at the end of the day be lucky to still be alive. Our nation has one of the highest road fatality rates in the world, and nearly 1 in 12 bridges in America are considered structurally deficient. This was one of them. That means that they're at the risk of being compromised by extreme weather, which is becoming more and more common with climate change. Any of us could become that man on the bridge in Seneca, Illinois, who was saved by his neighbors. The infrastructure proposal we're considering at this very moment would eliminate this threat across America, rehabilitate our roads and bridges, keep our economy growing, and make our families safe. With this historic infrastructure proposal, we are removing hazards from our communities, establishing a better foundation for our economy. Let's take a glance at some of the achievements under this proposal, this bipartisan proposal. The largest ever investment in public transit in America's history. I called the mayor of the city of Chicago yesterday, and I said, I think I have some good news for you. We're going to be able to build that transit system out, make it more accessible for those with disabilities, and safer stations, and expand the reach of transit in the city of Chicago. I call downstate to the Springfield Mass Transit District and tell them the good news as well. More buses that are fuel efficient, electric buses, and buses that really acknowledge that we need a response to the climate situation. An historic expansion in electric vehicle infrastructure is part of this bill. Electric vehicles are the future. Don't believe me when I say it, and don't wait for some government spokesman to say it. Just turn on your TV and watch the advertisements. The Ford F-150 Lightning is now this electric truck, this truck that is so popular in America, electrifying it, and to say that it's available now is an overstatement, but it will be soon. And they put on the ad, if you look at the very end of it, if you want to reserve one of these trucks, here's what the website you should contact. That's happening more and more. An electrified Mustang, for example. All of these suggest that the private sector is racing ahead of those of us in government, realizing that electric vehicles are the future. This plan will help automakers win the race worldwide to be the most important auto race in our history, to make sure that electric vehicles have the American imprint on them. And this bipartisan plan is a move for the future. For families in Illinois, the funding means parents won't have to worry about a bridge collapsing, taking their kids to school. It means they can trust the water coming out of the faucet to be clean and safe. And for parents in the city of Chicago, with more lead service lines than any city in the United States, it could be a lifesaver. These are the investments we need if we want America to win the 21st century. By making them today, with interest rates now at historic low, we can reap the benefit for years to come, decades to come. And that's not just my assessment. Last week, Moody's chief economist said that President Biden's plan to build back better, and I quote him, will lift the economy's longer-term growth potential and ease inflation pressures. Two things that all of us endorse. Let me say that again for my fellow senators, many on the other side of the aisle who can't wait to give a looming inflation speech. This package, according to Moody's economist, will lift the economy's long-term growth potential and ease inflationary pressures. Earlier this morning, the Bureau of Economic Analysis reported for the first time our nation's economic output has surpassed the pre-pandemic high. We're back in the saddle. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, people feel safe and more financially secure. They're heading back out in the world, shopping, dining at restaurants, and traveling. And let me add quickly, the incidents we're finding of infections, hospitalizations, and deaths are almost exclusively from people who are not vaccinated. Not vaccinated. They're the ones who are the most vulnerable, and they make innocent people like our children more vulnerable because of their decision not to be vaccinated. This growth in our economy reflects a simple truth. Relief for working families benefits all Americans and drives our economy forward. We have a lot of work to do to build this economy, but this is where we should start. I want to thank the bipartisan group of senators who came together to produce this package. In many ways, it's miraculous. This agreement can do more than enable us to repair America's roads and bridges. It can show us the way a divided Senate could come together for the good of this country. Just remember, there wasn't a single infrastructure bill, major infrastructure bill, in the last 5 years under the previous president, not one. We're doing it now on a bipartisan basis, and it's long overdue. I want to thank President Joe Biden for his determined leadership. Nothing this big and important is ever accomplished with the president standing on the sidelines. Joe Biden promised to work with both parties to make America work for all Americans, and he has. This is an achievement we can be proud of.